Guys, what's the most obvious hint you got from a girl that turned out not to be a hint? When I was a teenager, I had mostly female friends. One of them I was quite interested in, and one night during a party at my dad's house, she was trying to make herself a drink and splashed water over herself. Shortly after, she was explaining to me just how much water had splashed on her. During this explanation, she took my hand and put it under. After the party, when everyone was going to bed, she decided to sleep in my room. I offered her my bed and said I would sleep on the floor. She asked to borrow a t-shirt of mine to sleep in and got into bed. At this point, she said she was cold. The house was warm. I offered to get up and turn on the heating. She said not to, and I was reluctant to make the obvious offer of sharing the bed at this point because I didn't want to risk a friendship. The next few weeks, it kept happening. She made a point of sharing sleeping couches with me at future parties and regularly falling asleep or lay on me in social situations. Asked me into her bedroom late at night after taking drives together through the countryside, and even one time Skyping me in her dressing gown. So shortly after all this, I told her I was interested in her as more than a friend. I mean, even mutual friends who had been her friend longer than mine thought she was hinting, and I was promptly shot down and then attacked by her for ruining our friendship with feelings. Apparently, all that hinting behavior was not intentional and just a personality quirk of hers to be overly flirty. Turns out overly flirty is code for just here for the cuddles, not the commitment. Story 2. I became reconnected to a friend from high school that I hadn't talked to in years through Bumble. I was pleasantly surprised that, after exchanging numbers, she took initiative and suggested we see each other for brunch the next morning. Eventually, I mentioned that I was baking for work and she said, "Wow, you're smart and you can cook. How do you keep the women away?" I respond saying that I hope she wouldn't be able to have an answer after brunch, which makes her laugh. Brunch goes well, and 3 days later, she offers to buy me dinner to repay me for paying for brunch. I'm flabbergasted and appreciative, but I declined since I already had plans that night and didn't want to be rude. She comes over that Saturday to play board games with my friends and I, and talks about how she should love to come again the next time I host something like this. I ask her if she wants to go paddleboarding, and she's super on board with it. We'd been texting every day and she seemed rather interested, so I thought she was genuinely interested in getting to know me more, and potentially date in the future. She gets sick, and with bad weather approaching, I say that we can always go another day. There's always time for a first date. I then get told that she's not looking to be dating yet, and is still getting over her last relationship. A couple of weeks later, we went to church together and I met her family, who apparently are really impressed, and she invited me to a barbecue with only family and significant others. I'm so confused. Story 3. I invited a friend of mine to be my date for a wedding. The wedding was great. We drank plenty and she even got me on the dance floor. After the party winded down, I went to take her back to her car that was parked at my place. We got in the car and started driving back, listening to old Blink-182 and singing along. She reached over and held my hand. I had been single for 3 years, so this was nice. I decided I'm going to take the long way home, taking back streets and going way out and around before heading home. We finally got back to my house, and she asked if I wanted to hang out for one more drink. She comes inside and we stand in my kitchen having one more glass of wine. As I'm pouring the drinks, she turns to Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers. We held our drinks in one hand and each other with the other hand. We slowly danced in my kitchen, and it was amazing. The song was coming to an end, and I decided, this is it. This is where the guy kisses the girl. I leaned in to kiss her, and she very politely pushed me away. I held my head in shame, and we finished off the night playing music and drunkenly dancing in my kitchen. Even though nothing romantic came from this, she's still one of my best friends, and this is my favorite memory from the past year. Such an excellent night. Story 4. This female friend and I both shared the same hobby, and we saw each other regularly at meetups, hanging out and talking, and one time she had a problem with her phone and I helped her out. It was a minor fix, but she was really happy and grateful. "Oh, thank you so much." "Okay, you're getting a hug." And didn't think too much of it until a while later when she had some good news and posted about it online, and I congratulated her. She noted that we hadn't seen each other in person in several days. Conflicting work schedules, so we were just never in the same place at the same time. "Thank you. I miss hanging out with you. Hopefully I get to see you this week." Lots of other similar messages online. She enjoys our time together. She laments that we haven't been able to see each other in person, etc. I wasn't sure if I was reading too much into this, so I asked another female friend what she thought, and she thought I was being oblivious and stupid. "Okay, seems pretty obvious she likes you. You should totally ask her out the next time you see her, if you like her too." At the next meetup, she says hi. It's been too long and gives me a hug. And another one of our mutual friends is asking her how she's been, and she says she's been super busy and she'll have to take off early rather than stick around to socialize because her boyfriend is getting off work really soon. And then they're going to have dinner. And and I'm a bigger idiot than I thought. It took 10 seconds on my phone to look at her online profile. In a relationship with Rick Smith. Wait, Rick? That Rick? I've known him longer than I've known her. We've hung out tons of times, talked about stuff, and he's never mentioned her. Also, she's never mentioned Rick until this meetup. Wow, I read the whole situation completely wrong. Later, I closely pay attention to her interaction with other people. Oh, hey, John. I haven't seen you in a long time. Give me a hug. I missed you. Carrie, how you been? I know, I haven't seen you in a long time. I miss hanging out with everyone here at meetups. I've just been really busy. So she's just very outgoing and friendly with all her friends like that. Story 5. Girl I kinda liked came over and passed me and my friends by and said hi to me with her group of friends at a hockey game. Nothing unusual, even though they were sitting really far away as they probably just had to use the bathroom or something. Later, a puck goes over the net while they're warming up and I go down to get it, but can't. It went in an era I couldn't get to and didn't feel like dealing with any security guards jumping barriers. I'd head back to my seat. Maybe 10 minutes go by and a group of girls come by again and the girl holds up a puck and gives it to me. I thanked her and then she sat down, maybe 2 rows down and 10 feet to the right. Different spot than last time. My friends were all like, dude, she gave you the puck. Go sit with her. As I was about to head down, more of her friends joined her and she was now in the center of them. I decided I would text her later. With the help of some of my girlfriends, I constructed a text for her. Sent it, and long story short, she said she was kinda seeing someone else, but she definitely wanted to hang out as friends. All my friends were confused as to why she gave me the puck. We didn't talk outside of class, just we're in a group project together. If she didn't have any interest in me. Personally, I think she just might be a nice person and had no interest in keeping a puck. Story 6. On the opposite end of the spectrum, a couple years ago, I went to visit this girl I had met in 8th grade on a choir trip. We hadn't seen each other since we first met, but had talked on and off. Finally, years later and out of college, I decided to take a road trip 8 hours out to go see her. I was going to stay at her place for a couple days and see the city. Well, the week before I go, she tells me that she just got out of a bad relationship and doesn't know if I'm expecting it to be a one-weekend stand or something more than that because she couldn't do either. Not really so much a hint as it was her straight out telling me that. I was cool with it though. Still down for the adventure and had already requested the time off, so I told her I understood. No big deal. So when I get out there, we go out to a bar for a while and then hang out at her place, play games and such. That night she says I can sleep in her bed and not to mind if she gets snuggly. I'm cool, no worries. But she's snuggling me super tight all night and has her face like right next to mine. Not feeling like I should go for a kiss, but kept telling myself that she had specifically told me she wasn't down for that, so I shrug it off and go to sleep. The next day we go out for drinks again and she's like, why didn't you make a move last night? I was being super obvious that I wanted you to. And I was like, yeah, I thought that, but what was even more obvious was when you straight up told me you didn't want to do anything like that before I came up. She says, well, yeah, but I changed my mind like 5 minutes after you got here. Insert shrugging guy thing that people do. But once we had cleared things up, that night was fun. She was super cool, other than that little misinformation thingy. Sleeping arrangements. Just snuggle, no kiss. The modern day friend zone anthem. Story 7. I kind of got the reverse. Best friend for a long time was a girl I used to date in high school. Dated for 3 months and stayed best friends for 5 years. So a month into my first year at university, we planned for her to come visit for a day, then go visit her sister in a nearby town. A few hours into the day, she keeps complaining about not wanting to stay with her sister while her sister's boyfriend is there. I offer to let her stay there. I tell her she can take my bed and I'll sleep on the floor. I'm a college student. It wouldn't be the first time I've slept on the floor. She refuses and says she'll sleep on the floor. I can't let that happen, so out of both our stubbornness, we decide to sleep together in this tiny dorm room twin bed. First night, nothing. She slept on my chest, we cuddled a bit. It was great. We were good friends and were both a little lonely anyway. Around 3 a.m. on the second night, I woke up to a kiss in the cheek. I straight up asked in a groggy voice, duh, what was that? She pretended she didn't know anything happened. I go, who cares? Roll over and kiss her. We make out for a half hour or so and go back to sleep. We've been dating for a year. A wise woman once said the secret to a long-term relationship is finding a best friend you want to be intimate with. Story 8. I'll start by saying I had a huge crush on this girl. In college, she called me over to her place because she thought she heard a noise in her apartment. I just got a pizza, so brought it over. She didn't have furniture yet in her living room, so we sat on the floor with a blanket, ate pizza, and watched movies until late at night. It wasn't a big blanket, so we had to sit tight. It was time to go to sleep, and I said I'll sleep on the floor downstairs, and she said, "Absolutely not. My bed is big enough for both of us." So we went upstairs. She went into her closet to change, but did not close the door, and it was easy to see her changing. Being a respectful guy and quite frankly pretty poor at making moves at the time in my life, I froze. She had to get up earlier than me and take a shower before going to class. I waited until she left before I went downstairs myself, but there was a note there for me. Don't remember exactly what it said, but the main points were, "I love you. I trust you more than anyone else I've ever met. I'm so lucky to have you in my life." So I thought this was the sign to make the move. Obviously, the bed was one also. So the next day, knowing she was going to be at class, I brought her flowers and left a note telling her how I felt, thinking how lucky I truly am. She writes me a letter soon after and drops it off in my apartment. The whole letter was about how she loved me, but not that way, and that she never saw me in that light. I was crushed. She still wanted to be friends. I couldn't do it. So heart-wrenching. Let my guard down and got, well, crushed. Story 9. Was out on a tour, and being a band of single and married chaps, we were all looking for a lovely lady to occupy our post-performance. The performance went really well. Claps and cheers were had, and I was introduced to a friend of a friend who was quite lovely. I was openly flirting with her, and it was all well received. The topic of potential significant others came up, to which she replied, "Well, monogamy just isn't really a thing to me." Ding, 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 that's the prize bell, folks. Shortly after, she invites me to stay at her place, so I don't have to share a hotel with other bandmates. I happily accepted the offer, and just to remove any shadow of doubt, said I wouldn't mind sleeping on the couch. She declined, saying her bed would be much more comfortable. Bow chicka wow wow, more drinks are had. My bandmates have companions for the evening, and we're all off to our respective rooms. As we lay down, the mood changed. No affection, sad songs played in her phone. She was clearly missing some other dude. My heart drops. I ended up laying there a while and decided, who cares? Don't leave. Stay and just cuddle with a girl, which she was seemingly happy for. We kept in touch a little afterwards. I hope she worked out whatever she needed to. Story 10. I came over to her house to help her build a bed she bought from a store. Apparently, she wanted some male strength. Her words, not mine, to build it, and her dad has some hip issues. Her parents were home when I came over, but went out for dinner around the time we finished up. So I wiped the sweat from my brow and helped clean up the mess left over from the unboxing. She got me a drink of water and a fruit snack and some for herself, which I enjoyed, while we chatted for a bit. When I finished the snack, I got up and headed for the door to leave, while making goodbyes. I was mostly out the door when I said something like, "Hope the bed works out for you." She stopped just behind me and said slowly, "You know, I think we're alone right now." I was like, here we go, I guess. So I said, "Yeah, they left about 15 minutes ago for dinner. I think I heard them say they were going to a restaurant that's a 20-minute drive away." I had stopped, hand on the doorknob, and she followed up with, "Yeah, they like going there a lot. Have a nice trip. Be safe." Kick self internally. Yep, will do. See you later. And then I never tried to interpret hints again. Story 11. I became friends with a very attractive coworker, and we kept in touch long after we had both left the job. Years later, she invited me to come hang out at her house several towns over. She was newly single, and we had always had a good vibe together. Anyway, so I arrived at her house thinking to myself not to read too deeply into this. Whatever happens, happens. She says, "Let's stay in," and offers me a bunch of my favorite beer. Okay, this is looking positive. And she asks if I want to spend the night. Of course I do. We drink and laugh, and then the topic turns to intimacy. Her exact words followed, "Haven't had intimacy in a while." She says this while looking straight in my eyes. That's a green light if I ever saw one, so I go in for a kiss. What I got back was not a kiss but shock, anger, and a lecture about how she trusted me in her house, and how it was uncool to try and make a move. To this day, I don't understand it, and I now ignore all signals out of caution. Story 12. Classic girl at the coffee shop, but we start talking more each time. It gets to the point where she leaves her station to come say hi if she's not working the front. I'm developing a bit of a crush, but that's still well within the realm of normal barista stuff. One day I'm going through the drive-thru, and she's the one taking orders. On the way to my car, her table went out, but she came in to talk anyway. She gets somebody else to take over the line and keeps talking with me all the way to the window. Next time I see her, it's really busy. But I grow up here and give her my number on a card and ask her to call me later. Not the smoothest, but it's my first time sticking my neck out since getting over a long-term relationship that had recently ended. I'm a bit rusty. She smiles and says, "Thanks." After that, for like 2 months, every time I came through, if she was there, she'd get somebody to take over as soon as she saw me and go hide in the back. Didn't even get a not interested conversation. Just a look of terror. Story 13. I was good friends with this girl and thought I had a chance. One night we were messaging while she was out with friends and I was at home playing with my dog. Just texting each other and we started talking about Harry Potter movies randomly and how I'd never seen them. Turns out she was a huge Harry Potter fan and was utterly shocked I hadn't. So then she starts talking about being bored and had a couple drinks too many and shouldn't drive. So I offered to pick her up and take her home since I was bored anyway. Fast forward to the car ride. I pick her up and start driving back to her place, and of course, we're just talking about Harry Potter the whole way. Only 10-minute drive, college town life. Anyway, mid-drive she mentions that we should watch Harry Potter together. And taking that as my cue, I respond with, "How about tonight?" She was like, "Perfect." So I pull into her apartment parking garage, park, turn off the car. She hops out and turns to me and says, "Let me know when you get home and start it, and I'll start it too," and walks off. I'm still recovering from that curve. Story 14. Went on 3 dates with this girl. Never got a good read on her. She kept saying she was having fun, took her to the symphony. She got all dolled up, always one-word texts. Like, "Girl, are you even excited?" Literally 2 texts over 1 week to set it up. Didn't even know if she would answer the door, honestly. Took her back to her house, made out. I was pretty sure she was into it, but she was basically mute. I don't even know. Letting me put my digits in her was a pretty solid hint, but at some point, "Lady, you gotta say or do something that lets me know if you're into it." I kind of just gave up because it didn't feel right without any sort of connection. I think in the end we just didn't click. So it's not her fault, but it was pretty confusing that she didn't want to talk about anything ever, at all. I guess I could just push harder, but is it really consent if I don't even know if she wants it until she texts me a smiley face the next day? I'm pretty sure she just wasn't really into me. I'm a tough one to like, so yeah. Story 15. I was on a second date with a girl. We had already made out a little bit in my car, and she invited me up to her apartment. In her bedroom, she became pretty chatty. By chatty, I mean she kept talking about how she considers herself to be an adventurous witch. At one point, she pulled out some novelty-shaped lipstick, looked me straight in the eyes and said, "And this is my lipstick because I love it on my lips." A few minutes later, she finally sat down on the bed with me and I made a move, and she pushed me off. Bonus round. A few years ago, there was this girl I had a crush on. She was sweet, but had terrible taste in men. Always ended up with dudes that would hurt her. Anyway, one day we were hanging out and she brought up her bad love life. And then, "You're a really great guy. I wish someone like you would just ask me out." "Well, now that you mention it, you're a great girl too. Dinner date on Friday?" Oh, oh, oh no. I didn't mean you. I meant someone like you, but attractive. Oh, shooty. Jeez, that was a burn, man. Anyways, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 16. Alright, I'm late to the party, but in hindsight, this is too great not to share. So I was like 15 to 16 years old at the time, and my friend and I were at a public party thing. I'm actually not sure how to call it in English. Anyways, I lock eyes with this pretty girl and we're smiling at each other, but my scared teeny self obviously didn't go over to talk to her. However, I met her the next day at the beach, that is close to the party from the day before, and we started talking. Actually, I think she approached me, but I can't really remember it. So we talked, and immediately we just hit it off, and boom, we got a date the next day. So our date went pretty good. Nothing too special. We went to the beach and chilled and then ate something. It was pretty fun, and she really seemed to like me. In the evening, we sat at a rather isolated bridge or catwalk. Thanks, Google Translator. At the beach. It was actually pretty romantic. I put my arm around her and went in for the kiss. What happened? 1 centimeter before our lips meet each other, she pulls back and goes like, "Ah!" and makes a weird face. I'm like, "What in the world? Are you okay?" But she said she was fine. So we were sitting there and I'm confused for a good 5 minutes, and then I decide to try again and she does the same thing again. So I ask her again, and she tells me that she recently broke up with her boyfriend and that she still loves him. However, that wasn't even the worst part. Obviously, in my head, I'm like, but whatever. I mean, it was quite the tease. So after a while, I'm like, all right, girl, clear up your mind, and I want to go home. Everything is cool, right? Well, on my way home, 3 dudes I barely know sprint after me and scream at me. I had no idea what was happening, so I just waited for them to get to me. Anyways, it turns out after I left, the girl went to her friends at the beach and told them I mistreated her. By the way, this all happened at a camping site, for the lack of a better word, and it was not fun having people ask me if I mistreated a girl for 2 weeks straight. Story 17. I have a couple. I work at a Walmart in the auto department. This girl came by crying because her car wouldn't stay turned on and she went through 3 batteries and couldn't figure out why her car was messing up. I knew instantly that it was most likely her alternator and that she needed it to be replaced. Unfortunately for her, she wasn't from this town and her parents lived super far away. So having a soft spot for people who need help, I offered to, while still being on the clock, take her to a parts store so she could get the part she needed and install it for her. After all of that, she was really happy and grateful. She asked if she could get a number just in case something happened. She meant my number. I gave her the store number and wished her a good day. This girl came by asking if we could check the air pressure in her tires before she drove home. Before I start, we actually struck up a conversation about where she was from and what she was majoring in. I live in a college town, and other things. Mostly about her, and that was it. 2 weeks later, she came back asking for an air pressure check again, and by this time, I totally forgot about her. That's actually how we started our second conversation, by her realizing and then asking, "You don't recognize me, do you?" And my literal response was, "No, I do this tons of times every day." And while I was checking her air pressure, she made a point to step out of her car and attempt to get me to realize she was interested. Needless to say, it didn't work and she left. One of my technicians came up to me afterwards and pretty much told me that I was stupid for not noticing that a hot girl was trying to flirt with me, and it went way over my head. Story 18. It's Halloween night, 2011. I'm on frat row at my local university. I'm dancing with this girl. And after a while, she turns around and says, "Hey, want to go home and smash my pumpkin?" It being Halloween, I figured she was just trying to be witty in a Halloween-themed way of asking me to be intimate. We leave the party together and we're walking back to her place, just a few blocks down the road. We finally arrive at her place, and she quickly runs through the fence and up to her porch. I figured she was just eager to get me home, but she was actually just overly excited to grab her pumpkin from the front porch. She holds it up to me and says, "Guess what it is?" A bit confused, I just said, "I don't know," which she exclaimed, "It's a minion from Despicable Me. Do you think I should just do it here on the porch?" Puzzled, I analyzed the situation further and realized that she wanted to actually smash her real pumpkin. I told her she should do it in the front yard so there would be less mess to clean up afterwards. She nodded her head in agreement and with one full over-her-head swing, smashed that straight into the pavement. Pumpkin chunks flying all over the place, to which she then immediately lunged at me and began kissing me. Now, even more puzzled, I kissed her back. And without either of us saying a word, she turned to her house, waved me in, led me into her bedroom, and we did it. Story 19. There was this girl I was hanging out with for a couple of weeks after she broke up with her boyfriend. Her spiel was that she always rushes into relationships, and just for once in her life, she wanted to be able to say that she was honestly in love with someone before having intimacy. I took that to heart, and we spent the next 2 weeks in that summer going to the fair and holding hands and rides, going to the movies and her holding my hand and putting her head on my shoulder, stargazing in the mountains in the hood of my car with a bottle of apple cider because she didn't drink. One day while I'm at work, she keeps texting me that she's looking forward to me getting off work and picking her up to spend the evening together. We went out to dinner where she held my hand across the table and looked at me with such intensity that I had to stop myself from telling her I love her on more than one occasion. The goal of intimacy was completely gone. I would have waited forever for her, and I honestly felt that she felt the same way. She spent the night at my house that night, and we just snuggled in bed and talked until 4 a.m. I fought sleep so hard because I never wanted it to end, but we finally got to sleep. The next morning, we got up and I drove her to her parents' place so she could get ready for work. My heart was still pounding at the thought of this beautiful girl who had become my entire world. When I dropped her off at the mall that morning, she leaned over and kissed me passionately and asked if I wanted to hang out that night. I exclaimed yes, and she walked into the mall entrance. I waited all day for a call that never came. Tried calling once, and her dad said that she had a friend over, but that he would let her know I called. I felt like it was a test. and I didn't want to push it, so I just tossed and turned stressing out that night. She had to work again the next day, but I decided to play it cool and let her make contact. That lasted until that evening. I couldn't take it anymore and called her. To my surprise, she answered right away. I asked how her day went and told her that I had been disappointed when I didn't hear from her. She said that she was sorry and she hadn't called, but a guy that worked at the mall, Abercrombie, had invited her to a party, so she went. I asked her how it was, and she said it was good. And while explaining who all was there, I heard her yell at her toddler sister, "No, Brandy, don't touch that blanket. Willie did something on it." The next question was obviously if she and Willie from Abercrombie had hooked up, and her answer was yes. They were seeing each other now. At that point, I just dejectedly told her that I thought things were happening between us and that I was a little disappointed that she started seeing someone else. Her response? "Michael, you're so cute, sweet, and funny. I hope I can someday find someone just like you." Story 20. So I was a transfer student to a 4-year college and used the Yik Yak app. People wanted to do a Thanksgiving dinner over break at a dorm for the people that didn't leave. So we made a cheap spaghetti dinner. Only 5 people showed up, but the OP of that post was a really cute freshman, so we exchanged numbers and kept talking for a while. Well, we went out to dinner a bunch of times and texted literally daily. So she invited me back to her dorm, and my internal voice said, "She wants the D." So I got all cleaned up, shaved, washed, smelled good, etc. Go over to her place after we ate and put on Netflix. And this is when it took a turn. She immediately said, "This is not Netflix and chill. I'm not that type of girl." I thought that was fair and started to watch the movie. Then she invited me to sit on her bed since dorm rooms don't have much furniture. So I'm sitting on the end of the bed and she asks me to lay down with her. Then she falls asleep. So I try to leave. Then she kind of wakes up, asks where I'm going and to come back to bed. So we pretty much spoon or sleep all night with the absolute worst time of my life. And in the morning, she asks why I'm still there after she told me to stay. Story 21. Sitting and talking with a girl during algebra class while in college. We just got the results of an assignment we both did poorly on. She was upset. She really struggled in this class. She asked me to come to her dorm room that night to tutor her. I told her how bad I was doing in that class, but she didn't seem to care. She even had a bit of flirting in her tone when she asked me to come over to her dorm. That night, when I got to her dorm room, her roommate quickly left and said something to the effect of, "You two have fun. I'm going to iron my socks," or some other terrible thing to pass time. Obviously, she was just giving us the dorm to use for ourselves. On her way out, she had a big smile on her face looking at me. Basically, she looked at me like she already knew what her roommate was going to do to me. We were barely alone for 5 minutes when she suggested we study in her bed. If she had a billboard saying she wanted to have intimacy, it would have been less obvious at this point. I got next to her in her bed and started to make a move. She immediately shot me down. I was so blindsided. I don't remember what she actually said, but it was basically, "Why would you think I wanted you to try and make a move on me?" I was so confused and embarrassed. I rambled to myself about how that situation went wrong in my entire walk across campus. Story 22. Back in college, I spent a lot of time with one girl. We did everything together. She had me over to meet her folks and family for Thanksgiving, a 5-hour drive from where we are. She would talk to me about her hopes and dreams and what she wanted out of life. We spent many a night together, just talking or relaxing together. When I worked up my courage to ask her out, she told me not to, that she wasn't ready for a relationship. Then things got really weird. I went on to date another girl, on her suggestion, at which point she started flirting with me heavily, culminating in crying to my best friend and complaining that I picked the wrong girl and should have picked her, even though she made it quite clear not to make any moves. Now, granted, I did pick the wrong girl, and a wrong girl after that. I kept picking the wrong girls until I met and married my wife. Each time we would break up with a girl, she would be there to attempt to rekindle our friendship, and then complain that I chose someone else. And she would casually drop that she would never date someone like me because I wasn't her type or a looker by any means. She was wild. Story 23. So I had been chatting up this girl at work and via text for a good 6 months. She was the type that you would get a good morning from text all day, say goodnight and hear from her for 2 weeks. Feel me? Anyway, she was my type, not just in looks, but her personality. Progressed into a couple dates going for drinks, but nothing happened. I thought we had a good time, but she would usually just say goodnight and walk into her house. I got a text about 8 p.m. "What are you doing?" I texted her back and said I just got done at the gym and was home. She told me she was out with her friends drinking and that they had all gone home, but she didn't want the night to end and asked if I wanted to go over. She told me we could watch Sons of Anarchy. Never seen it, but she wasn't too interested in TV. In my eyes, I said, "Oh, baby, about time this work pays off." Literally a shower change, a couple shots to catch up on my way. She's hammered, but not sloppy. We greet and chat. She then turns on the TV and asks me if I've seen the show. I said no, but would watch. She then spends 2 hours over the course of many episodes catching me up on the show and its details. I entertained the convo for the duration while slowly losing my buzz and willpower. The episode ended and I said, "Who cares? Trying it now." I lean over and kiss her. She immediately pushes me away and says, "I'm not that type of girl," and tells me to leave. Guess I got the wrong hint. Never spoke again. Story 24. Coworker I've never talked to before went out of her way to ask me to move some things to her car. Started conversations like, "Movies are nice. You ever go to the movie theater?" and stuff like that. Then she asked if I was going to the company Christmas party with anyone. And after I said no, she invited me to go with her. I said yes. Next day, I invited her out to lunch to scope her out. She agreed, and we're vibing over sushi. She asks about other women I've been seeing, what I look for in a woman, etc. Christmas party rolls around and she shows up all cute. We hang out the entire time. It was casino night. I was winning big, and she said, "You're good at trusting your gut feeling." The party ends, and I tell her we should go onto the roof of the hotel to enjoy the view, and she agrees enthusiastically. We try random doors to find roof access. We talk about how much we're enjoying the night, laughing, etc. We find a door with a big roof access sign, so we lunge for it with excitement. But it's locked. Luckily, we found a balcony nearby that had a view of the city. We start talking about incredibly deep stuff, about psychology, psychedelics, human nature, and love at first sight. I see my chance and say, "You know how you said I'm good at trusting my gut feeling? Well, I've got a gut feeling about you." We lock eyes together. I start to lean in for the kiss, and she panics and forces out, "Yeah, we're going to be friends for a long time." I've never felt so deflated. This is how the night goes. I feel stupid. Just want to go home. I try to pretend I'm not sad and lonely, fake a cheerful remark and zone out while she's talking to my face. My eyes water, and enough time passes for me to appropriately say that we should head back inside. I walk her to her car and awkwardly wave her goodbye through the window. Story 25. I had this huge crush on this girl back in 6th grade. She also seems to like me a lot as well. We were both smart and kind of nerdy, so I hoped I might be able to get my first girlfriend. She then got accepted into this really awesome program that sent her to Japan for a couple of weeks to go to school there. The school made a big thing out of it, as my school had like 80 students or so. Kindergarten was its own class, then 1 to 3rd grade was a single class, 4 to 6 was a single class, and 7 and 8th were together as well. Just to give you an idea of how small the school was. On her last day before she left, we were hanging out and kind of geeking out over how exciting this was for her. The school day ended, we hugged and went our separate ways. Over that weekend, I found a note in my trumpet case from her, saying how sad she was about leaving and how she wished we could have hung out more. She asked that I meet her behind the school at lunch in a couple weeks when she got back. Oh boy, was this one hell of a hint. I'm waiting, super anxious about all this, freaking out, nauseous. I didn't know how to act because no girl had ever shown real interest in me. The day arrived and she was back. We were both really coy and weird around one another, but lunch finally happened and I snuck out back to meet her. My heart was racing. Then it sank. I got back there to find my sister and 3 of her friends all laughing at me. Why would you ever think she liked you? Laughter at my expense. They wrote the note. They knew I wouldn't tell anyone about it just to make me wait for today to walk into an emotional ambush. That destroyed me. I couldn't trust people for a long time, much less every 100% believe a girl was showing actual interest in me. I totally took on my namesake after that. I went full beta male, using the description from a dirty job. Became paranoid that everyone was always out to mess with me. It was horrible. Story 26. Made the decision in college not to date till I finished my degree. Met 2 girls that became my best friends. One was a swinger and not into guys like me, and I was fine with that. The other had her husband divorce her after being married for 8 years. I was her friend and listened without making moves on her. The second semester starts. Everything's going smoothly. Only Polly, the divorcee, is constantly hugging me. At some point, she even kisses me. She's always wanting to get hammered and have fun. She's hanging all over me all the time. Third semester starts, and I'm constantly saying it'd be bad for our friendship if anything were to happen between us. Fourth semester arrives, and my college education makes me realize I am not freaking Superman or a monk. We start kissing a lot more and going on dates and hanging out to watch movies. Finally, the 5th semester arrives. It's the day before Halloween. We're over at my sister's where I'm living, watching scary movies with my sister and my swinger friend. We run out of stuff to drink, so I volunteer to go get more since I'm the only sober one. I don't drink. Polly wants to go along. When we finally pull into the drive, she slides over and starts kissing me. I finally surrender and kiss her back. She suddenly stops kissing me and returns to her seat with a surprised look on her face. She says we should go in since everyone is waiting for us. Instead, we finish watching our movie, and she and her other friend leave and go home. The next time I see her is my first class on Monday after Halloween. I'm in class, seated at this big square table that all the students sit at. It's like a big kitchen table. Polly's to my right. A guy friend of hers that I haven't met is seated across from me. He's glaring at me furiously while Polly is madly avoiding eye contact with me. It comes out near the end of class that the man across from me is her fiancé that I never knew about. After 2 weeks of Polly avoiding me, I finally forced my other friend, who says she doesn't want to get in the middle of it, to tell me what the hell is wrong with Polly. Evidently, Polly had gone around telling everyone that I tried to take advantage of her while she was hammered. So everyone with a connection to her and I thought I was some sleazy date. I really read 5 semesters worth of kissing wrong.
Guys, what's the most obvious hint you've got from a girl that turned out not to be a hint? This happened in my last year of high school. I had a crush on a girl in a band. I played clarinet. She played flute. We were both in the first row, so we sat directly across from each other and naturally looked at each other during rehearsals. At our school, all the graduating band kids were allowed to write a short blurb which would be included in the program for a spring concert. Anyways, concert day rolls around and I'm hanging around backstage, flipping through the program, waiting for the parents to start arriving. I eventually got to her blurb. Her favorite band memory was looking across at a certain clarinet player. Turns out it wasn't me. Story 2. I met a woman at a bar when we were both in our early 20s. After leaving, we went back to her place to talk and smoke. She excused herself to the bathroom and returned in a tiny tank top. She sat down next to me and asked if I'd like to lie down with her. So we crammed ourselves onto her couch. I held her close and she kept putting herself against me. When I finally made a move, she said, "Oh, I don't like you like that. I just get lonely and want to feel something against my back sometimes." I got up and left, went home and got intoxicated with my buddies. Story 3. Went to a girl's place to watch the Olympics. It was our second date. She told me I could stay and sleep over because we had been drinking. Her brother and his girlfriend were there, so I didn't think anything of it. It started to get late and asked her for some blankets and pillows to sleep on the couch. She told me that I could just sleep in her bed with her. I still did not think anything of it. Her brother gave some pajamas to wear, and I changed and got into bed while the girl was brushing her teeth. Next thing you know, she walks into the bedroom and gets into bed. It caught me off guard. I was suddenly filled with happiness. I moved in to kiss her. We hadn't before, and she said, "I'm not ready for that." I was so damn confused. I just said okay, then rolled over and questioned reality until I fell asleep. Story 4. Friend in college. We spent a lot of time together. Moved apart eventually, but we would talk on the phone for hours a few times a week. Started saying I love you to each other. One of her friends where she lives forces her to go on a blind date. She never says anything to me about it after that day. Continue on for months, talking and saying I love you. She flies up to visit me. I ask her to actually make this official and be my girlfriend. She says she's getting married in a couple months to the blind date guy. A year and a half of therapy and medication later, I met my now wife. Story 5. I had a coworker keep flirting with me. She gave me her Facebook and phone number. She constantly kept seeking me out just to talk about nothing. She'd always have those do-me eyes and tone of voice. Eventually, she messages me to pick her up at a parking lot and we go around town sharing ice cream and loitering in random stores until 3 a.m. Then she randomly asks to come over at midnight. She lived an hour away, so she came over at midnight to a guy's house she only knew from working with him for 2 weeks and going out. We sat in my room and we put a movie on. Then she refuses to cuddle. She talks about how boys are always trying to make a move on her, and she then takes out her diary from high school and reads it to me. It's probably the most what the hell is going on experience I've had with a girl ever. Up until that point, I was 100% sure if I made a move she was going to have her way with me. Story 6. In high school, these 2 popular girls thought they'd have a laugh by going up to the nerdy group of boys and asking them one by one when they were alone if they'd be interested in having a date with them. Then when the boys said yes, they'd pull a date, the fruit, out of their pocket and laugh. I guess they just assumed because we were nerds that we would desperately say yes and they'd have a good laugh. But they got a pretty big awakening when of the 5 boys they ended up doing this to, all 5 rejected them. We then had some girls come over and say that we were mean for making her cry, but I reckon it's a hell of a lot more cruel to plan on embarrassing a bunch of teenage boys the way she was going to than us taking what they said seriously and respectfully declining. Story 7. Usually on Fridays after work, I like to go to a coffee shop to catch up with some more work. Yes, I'm a bit of a workaholic. This girl, who's about my age, late 20s, works as a barista there. Sometimes she has the Friday afternoon shift, sometimes she doesn't. Anyway, she was always sort of flirty to me, which I initially attributed to her job persona. A few weeks ago, she was there at the register with a group of friends, and she was outright flirty. You know when a group of friends gets all silly and giggly? The moment I crossed the door, they even said, "Oh, here comes your coffee boyfriend." I played along. No awkwardness at all. It was a fun time. She even insisted I didn't pay for my coffee. She didn't take my money. A couple of hours later, I'm done with my work, and I approach her to say thanks. She apologizes in a very cute way. I tell her it's cool and ask her out. I have a boyfriend. P.S. I still go there. It's not awkward at all. Story 8. I went to Renfest with some friends. Tagging along was a girl I hadn't met before as she came along with one of my other friends. We walked around for the better part of the day, and I noticed at almost every opportunity she was being very flirty with me. Made several brushes up against my arms and seemed to want to hold my hand a lot. I took this as a sign that she was interested in me, but as it turned out, she was using me to shield herself away from the other friend that she came with, who was quite interested in her. I felt pretty crappy about it afterwards, and it was a big blow to my already fragile ego. Story 9. I had a first date with a girl that went really well, and after I got home, I got a text from her that said, "You left your dessert from dinner. Should I come drop it off?" I immediately replied that I'd just come over and pick it up. She said we could hang out a little more, maybe play some video games. It was midnight, so of course I figured, come pick up your dessert and play some video games meant come over for intimacy. So I hauled back onto the freeway to get over there. Cut to 20 minutes later, I'm eating a brownie and helping her pick up multiplayer-only trophies in LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean. We've been dating for 3 years. Story 10. Growing up, my neighbor was pretty flirty. In retrospect, she may have just been naive. A couple incidents come to mind. I was at their house while they had some friends over. Neighbor girl calls me into her room with her friends, demands to know who's cutest. She called out her and her friends' features. I was helping her with the math homework. I don't remember the exact instances, but every couple problems, she would turn my wording into a sexy euphemism. She had a birthday party when she turned like 15. At some point, she pulled me into her room to dance alone with me. She put on some slow jazz and we started dancing. She even dimmed the freaking lights and lit candles. After a couple minutes, I go to kiss her and she freaks out and leaves. Her hormonal self has never been more confused. Story 11. I needed a haircut for my friend's wedding that I'd been putting off until the last minute, and since it was early September, all the places I usually went and could get one quickly were full of kids getting their back-to-school haircuts. So after a long search, I found a hair salon that could take me. The girl cutting my hair was very nice, and we were talking about a lot of stuff. Some things I thought were more than just small talk, like local places we both went to and things we did when we were kids. She also mentioned several times that she was a single mother. I took her constant mentioning of her being a single mother to mean she was single, so after I paid and left, I thought about it for a while and worked up the nerve to go back and ask her out, thinking she had been sending me signals. When I did, she told me she had a boyfriend. Looking back, I think she was playing up the mother part of single mother so I'd give her a bigger tip, which I did. Story 12. I was in high school and worked a part-time job with a girl from my school. She was pretty flirty with me at work. She always asked the manager to take a break anytime she saw me go for mine. One time she had me hold her phone and told me to tell her if it vibrated because she was expecting a text. It did, and when I gave the phone to her to check it, she jumped up and down laughing, saying her grandma is visiting her for the weekend and was hugging all over me. She ended up asking me on a date to go bowling. I show up, and her friend that I've never met is there, too. She ends up flirting with other random guys in front of me and wanders off with them, leaving me alone with her friend. The friend then told me she would never do that to me and asked if I wanted to be her boyfriend. It was so obvious she had been flirting with me the last few weeks just to try to set me up with her friend who was far less attractive than she was. I saw through it right away and noped out of there. Later at work, the girl was like, "Sorry it didn't work out with you and my friend." Flirting stopped and she quit shortly after. Story 13. Senior year of high school, there was this cheerleader that asked for my number and would always flirt with me, saying we'd be the cutest couple in the school and always wanted me to come over to her apartment in downtown Indy and told me to make her my WCW. Also spent so much time with me at a concert we coincidentally saw each other at. Also danced with me at a fundraiser in high school when the music turned into a party. The whole high school was telling me to ask her out already because signals could never be more clear. When I asked her out to lunch, she freaked out and was shocked that I would interpret friendship for that. Story 14. A friend of mine had recently broken up with her boyfriend and we both got pretty intoxicated at a party. She started getting super flirty and was hanging all over me. We were getting looks from people at the party. She asks if we can go back to my place. I didn't ever really think of her that way. We met while she was in a relationship and had established a friendship that wasn't romantic in the slightest, but she's cute and I figured, why not? So we get back to my place and she's sitting on the couch. I go to make a move and immediately I can tell she's not down. She literally just wanted to sleep on my couch instead of going to her own place. It was awkward and embarrassing, but we laughed it off and we're still friends. 2 years later. I've since learned that she's a total flirt when she gets intoxicated and to not think anything of it. Story 15. Back in high school, a girl used to try to get me to come over to her house all the time. I, of course, didn't want to. I was socially awkward and bad with girls. Soon she started to bribe me with things. Oh, we can play on the Wii, or we could go out in my backyard tonight and you can teach me about the constellations. Well, I still felt kind of weird. She was 2 years my junior and I was going to college. So I waited until my last month at home until I decided to actually take her up on the offer. Long story short, she picks me up, starts flirting with me. Oh, I'm going to miss you so much. Gets really close to me, that sort of thing. We finally got to her house and we were chilling on the couch. I put my arm around her and she gets this what the heck kind of face. Immediately stopped, acted like I didn't notice her expression, and proceeded to be low-key angry for the rest of the night. In the end, just flat out destroyed her in the chest and walked home. Story 16. I was about 13 or 14 playing Dig Dug in an arcade. This was back in the 80s. When a cute girl came up and said, "You dropped your token." I turn and say, "Oh, thanks," and start turning to face her, but I'm in the middle of my game, so I hesitate a little. She says with a smile, "That's okay, I'll put it back for you." Reaches deep into my front pocket, pulls her hand out, then seems to stand right behind me. Holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. What do I say to this girl? A few seconds later, my game is over. Who could concentrate at that point? I turn around with a smile and she's gone. I reach into my front pocket and think, oh, she accidentally grabbed the $50 bill I had in my pocket. So I walked all around the arcade for the next few minutes looking for her. It took me way too long to figure out what happened. Story 17. There was this girl in my college who briefly dated one of my good friends and broke up unexpectedly, and we continued hanging out after they broke up. We would drink, go to bars, concerts, etc., and many times it was just the two of us. A few times we would get too intoxicated and sleep over at each other's places, and every time we slept in the same bed. We definitely spooned since our beds were twin beds, but neither of us ever made advances, although I had some feelings for her. I remember waking up one day with her staring at me and she said, "Did we do anything last night?" I say, "No. Did you want to?" She replies, "Thank God, no." Cue me crying inside. Story 18. Yesterday, a lady from work, constantly flirting with me and even making food for me, asked if I wanted to go out with her to the NJ State Fair. I said sure and was pretty excited about it. Went to the fair. She was a no-show. No call, no text, nothing. So there I was at the fair. It's hot as hell by myself. Tried to make the most of it, but since I was alone, they didn't let me on most of the rides. Yeah. Didn't know there was a rule against single people. I saw her today at work. Asked her why she didn't tell me she wasn't coming. She acted shocked that I actually went. No crap. I was actually going to go. If I promise I'll do something, I'm going to do it. Got stood up and it was all her idea. My one day off working. Ruined. Story 19. I am a girl and this actually happened to me. After a night of partying, I was asleep on a couch because we had limited space. When I realized a bed was available, I started to move there, which woke up an intoxicated guy. The bed was big, so with a mix of social anxiety and good intentions, I asked him if he wanted to share it and sleep with me, with absolutely no intention to do anything. However, I somehow convinced myself that he would just assume that and that I didn't need to explicitly say it. The guy looked confused and told me he had a girlfriend. Instead of just leaving him alone, I repeated, "That isn't a problem. Come on, there's space for both of us up here." About 2 or 3 times. He shifted uncomfortably, clearly put off my persistence. Thankfully, I eventually gave up on him and just went to the bed, thinking, that guy's an idiot. Beds are nicer than the floor or the couch, and now there's more space for me. I woke up the next morning, and he was nowhere to be found. It was then that the realization hit me. In his mind, I was totally asking for intimacy and seemed desperate because of my persistence. Story 20. I was talking to this girl for a good half of my high school year. She was really awesome. Really fun to be around, really pretty, just a great person in general. I'd liked this girl for 2 years now, and I just started to genuinely talk to this girl. It got to the point where she told me she liked me since last year, and that was a big shock to me since I'm not the greatest looking person. Anyways, we were going places, doing things for about a good month, a really great month. I've been dealing with crap, and so had she. Trust issues, she said, so we never made a relationship out of it. Turns out she just used me for attention and therapy, so she told me she liked me to keep her happy. I would have been fine if she didn't lie to me and break my heart so badly I didn't even care about anything. Dumb for me to do as well. I failed my classes and I've never felt worse about it. I never wanted to like anyone ever again because that crap messed me up. Here I am now though, lit as hell, passing my chem class, with the best girl I could have ever asked for. There's no point being stuck up on someone who messed you up. Story 21. In high school I was good friends with this girl. We were interested in each other when I was 16, but we were a little young and nothing ever happened. A few years later, we're still friends, and she's with one of my best friends at the time. I left to another country for a couple of years. I ended up staying in contact with her while I was gone, and when I came back, we hung out quite a bit. One day she invited me to spend a weekend at her grandparents'. I figured this was a big deal and a clear opportunity to make a move. I tried a couple times, but she would smoothly dodge my advances, which I thought was weird. It became pretty awkward, so a few days later I went over to her place just to get it out in the open. Turns out she just thought we were friends and thought it would be fun to hang out for the weekend. Possibly the most awkward moment of my life. Story 22. I was head over heels for this girl in drama class in high school. It was the end of the year. Some of us were talking in a circle. They said, "Yeah, you should audition for the theater company. You'll get girls guaranteed. His auditions are in a couple days to be in the cast for next year." The girl I'm into comes behind me, wraps her arms around me, and says, "Yes, you should join." I joined. I asked her out in the first semester of the year. She said no. She left the cast at the beginning of the second semester. Unrelated to me, she had a band. So now I'm stuck in a theater company for the rest of the year, meaning I'm staying at school after school ends, and the whole reason I entered, the girl leaves the company. Sadness, tears, melancholy. I guess I fit in with a drama cast after all. Story 23. I was on a second date with a girl. We'd already made out a little bit in my car, and she invited me up to her apartment. In her bedroom, she became pretty chatty. And by chatty, I mean she kept talking about how she considers herself to be an adventurous girl and really loves to do it. A few minutes later, she finally sat down on the bed with me and I made a move, and she pushed me off. Turns out she didn't mean me. Bonus round. A few years ago, there was this girl I had a crush on. She was sweet, but had terrible taste in men. Always ended up with dudes that would hurt her. Anyway, one day we were hanging out and she brought up her crappy love life, and then, you're a really great guy. I wish someone like you would just ask me out. Well, now that you mention it, you're a great girl too. Dinner date on Friday? Oh, no, I didn't mean you. I meant someone like you, but attractive. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 24. I was a class clown, friendly with everyone, especially my crush. A group of us had gathered, including her, and everyone was laughing and having a good time. It seemed like the right time to ask her out. She laughed and said yes. I was thrilled, and later that day I met her at her locker and started chatting her up. She looked confused but chit-chatted for a minute and headed to class. I went on with my day, bragging to anyone who would listen that I had the girl of my dreams. At the end of the day, I went to meet her at her locker but couldn't find her. Apparently, she had left crying because she found out I had been telling people we were dating. Class clown is great until no one takes you seriously. She thought me asking her out was just part of my act. It's one of those moments I think about at 3 a.m., in the dark, cringing. Story 25. I went out with some mates, and one of them, let's call him Pat, met a girl in the bar we were in. Pat is a massive film nerd who had recently broken up with an off-and-on girlfriend and had been feeling particularly down. So we were all pleased to see him hit it off. This lady was also really into comic book films and suggested ditching everyone so she and Pat could go back to hers and watch X-Men 3 The Last Stand. Pat told her she wanted to go back to hers and to watch X-Men 3 and chill. We congratulated him and wished him safe passage. 4 hours later, we got a message on our group chat. Turns out she really did just want to watch X-Men 3 and had no intention of anything else. He wasn't even disappointed in not getting but feared for his life when he realized they were watching the film unironically. As everyone, even people in the deepest, darkest jungles of the Congo, knows that X-Men The Last Stand is a flaming piece of crap. Story 26. Hanging out with a buddy at Vintage Stock looking for magic cards because MTG hits you hard when you start learning the game. Turns out the cute girl at the register that I told him I was crushing on a little before he got there was his cousin. Small world. They talked and caught up, then when she was off work, the three of us smoked a little in her car. Then she asked him what his number was so they could keep in touch. Then she looked at me and said, "Here, I'll need yours too." Heck yeah, right? So I gave her my phone and had her put hers in. Asked her out in the baseball game with him and his date. She said yes, so we bought the tickets. Well, the day of the game, about 30 minutes into the game, he shows me a text from her saying, "Is this a double date? He knows I have a boyfriend, right?" Hell no. How would I know that? Not even halfway through the game, she leaves saying she has plans, and I was stuck there. There's a third wheel with my friend and his date, feeling like an idiot. I left like 30 minutes later. Not gonna lie, still pretty salty about that one. Story 27. I did this to someone and felt so bad. Years ago, I sold phones and was helping a customer who couldn't get picture messages. He came in alone, so I used my phone to try to send a picture message. By the way, it was an ugly coffee table I was trying to get rid of, so it was not like a selfie or anything. He spoke as I fixed his device, and once it went through, I wrapped up the conversation we were having about the coffee I had, and he was on his way. I didn't think anything of this. Until 3 days later, I got a random text asking me when I was working and if he could bring me a coffee to work as a thank you. I said no thank you, but that I appreciated the offer. The next text, he asked me out on a date that I politely declined. I was wondering how he got my number since I deleted the texts. Well, it turns out the first picture message was sent twice, and he got one as he was sitting in his car after leaving my store. Homeboy got slightly upset and asked why I had sent him the ugly coffee table text again if I didn't want to go on a date. It was amazingly awkward for both of us, and I felt so dumb. Story 28. Back in college, my roommates and I threw a decent-sized party one night. I'd been flirting with a particular girl for a while. She was a friend of a friend we'd met casually a few times, and things seemed to be going well, but nothing had happened yet. Towards the end of the night, I was pretty tired, and the party was winding down. I said goodnight to the handful of people left, headed to my bedroom, and crawled into bed. A few minutes later, she walked in and crawled in with me. At this point, I thought, oh yeah, I know where this is going. So I rolled over, pulled my arm around her, and snuggled up. Nope, she pushed my arm off and scooted away, telling me she only thought of me as a friend. She just wanted to sleep in bed with me, and that was it. Well, it's fine to be just friends. Friends sleep on the couch, so she got kicked back out to the living room. The really messed up thing is that it happened again a few months later with a completely different girl. Story 29. When I was in 8th grade, I became really good friends with a girl I had a crush on. We had a flirty relationship, and I was sure we were going to end up together. One day on our big class road trip to DC, we were sitting together in the tank bus. It was pretty late, so it was dark and quiet. Most of the other kids were asleep. Out of nowhere, she puts her hand under my chin and starts going in slowly for a kiss. Right before we met lips, she smiled and said, "Just kidding." A couple days later, I told her how I feel after some encouragement from my buddies. She did not feel the same way. She immediately tells her friends what I did, and my rejection is the talk of the 8th grade for the next couple of days. It gets worse. A couple of weeks after that, she starts dating a 9th grader who was infamous in her school. Oddly enough, they dated throughout all of high school and got married a couple of years into college. Story 30. This girl keeps texting me random stuff. Last week, she texted me to send her a pic of my legs. Like, what the hell? Who asks that? This was all at like 10 p.m. one night. Of course, I'm not just going to send her a pic, so I just replied, "You first." I'm also under the impression that she's in a relationship, so I'm perplexed. Next day, she sends me a screenshot of my Bumble profile and says, "You're too good to be on Bumble. Get the hell out." And I'm like, why are you even on it? She tells me she's single and broke up with her boyfriend. She didn't specify when, but she was still with him in late May, so it's only been a few weeks. Definitely don't want to be a rebound. Later, I tested her by texting her, "Still waiting for those leg pics." She then replies that she just wanted to show her friend a pic of my legs. So I just noped out since I'm 99% sure she just wants attention and I'm sure this isn't going anywhere. Story 31. In high school, one of my best friends was a girl. I'm a guy and I ended up developing a big crush on her. Her and I were incredibly flirtatious with each other, so I kind of started to think she liked me back. Her friends would always tell me, "You two should date. You'd make a cute couple." I took this as another good sign she was into me. Later that summer, her and I were alone, looking at the stars when she started looking at me funny and we eventually kissed. From then on, she and I would hold hands in public and kiss each other whenever we would hang out and start progressing to more intimate things. We kept it a secret from our friends, and while neither of us said it, we were pretty much dating. Or so I thought. After that had been going on for a month, I was preparing to make it official and ask her to be my girlfriend. Around that same time, I heard that over the weekend she had fooled around with another guy. When I confronted her about it, she told me that I'm her best friend and she doesn't see me like that and that she had liked this other guy for a while. Moral of the story, apparently I'm pretty bad at reading the signs. Story 32. I'm not a guy, but still sort of relevant. Met on Tinder, had a few dates over the course of a few days, went out, got intoxicated, ended up making it official as girlfriends. Got it on, in the most basic sense, so she didn't have a clue what she was doing. I came back to mine the next day after staying at hers. She then left mine in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m., saying her friend was in trouble and needed to be picked up. Great day so far, so I didn't think anything was up. I didn't hear from her all night and the next morning, so I'm a bit worried, of course, as her friend was in trouble. I then finally got a message saying she can't be with me anymore. She's straight. Wait, what? Story 33. A woman I'd hung out with a few times texted me at roughly 3:30 to 4 in the morning, asking if I was up. I said I was in bed. She asked if she could bring beer and come over. Lol. I replied, sure, and don't even get out of bed. It was Friday and I hadn't even gone out. I played Mario Galaxy and went to bed at midnight. I assume if she's bringing beer over 2 hours before sunrise, it's because she wants it. She texts me when she pulls up. We settle in the living room. I get my arm around her. She hands me a Bud Light and I rub her shoulders. What are you doing? She asks. Shoulder massage? Why? I'm too tired to be clever. Isn't this a, what call? Oh my god, no, I just wanted to hang out. She's shocked. I take my arm away and try to laugh it off, but she's not having it. She immediately grabs all the beer and runs out, saying, I have to get out of here. I'm still half asleep and squinting on the couch as she dashes out and leaves my front door open. I close it and go back to sleep. Story 34. I had a friend that always loves to drop little hints to me. I imagine both of us living together one day. You want to be a movie director, right? I always wanted to marry a movie director. You're everything I always looked for in a guy. We were best friends, but I firmly believe that a man and a woman can be friends without feelings getting involved, so I didn't really like her. Anyways, she dated a lot of guys during our time as friends, and she always came to me to cry about how they were all schmucks and stuff. At first, I didn't have any feelings towards her, but slowly started to get attracted. After she came out of a particularly bad relationship, she asked me out on a date to get some coffee and talk about something that's been in her mind. I didn't think nothing of it. I've been thinking about a special guy. Oh? He's a long-term friend, funny, supportive, always makes me laugh. He's a great guy, really, and I really would love to be in a relationship with him. Sounds like a cool guy. I didn't want to assume it was me. He's very cheerful and he wants to be a movie director. Oh, crap, I thought. This is my chance to tell her how I feel about us. Looks like she feels the same about me. He reminds me so much of you. Story 35. I met this beautiful girl who worked at Spencer's. She seemed to be genuinely flirting with me, but I didn't think much of it at the time. A week or two later, I went back to the store for something else, and she was there. I finally got up the nerve to ask her out, and she said yes. We hung out a few times and smoked grass. I kissed her once, and it seemed well received. The last time we hung out, she even said something to the effect of, well, we haven't gone on our first official date yet. She also called me a few times late at night to talk about life and the future. All the signs were there, and opportunities seemed to present themselves constantly. For instance, I learned that she really liked the band Walk the Moon. At the time, I was working for a radio station. One day while driving, I heard a promotion that our station would be hosting a private mini-concert with a band in the studio. I immediately called work and asked if I could go and bring someone. They said absolutely, no problem. So I called this girl, but got no response. I called her again later, still no response. Over the next few days, I kept calling but never got an answer. Then one day I called from a different number and some guy picked up. I found out from him that she was dating him. Apparently they had broken up when I first started getting to know her. Heartbroken, I tried to speak to her directly, but she never spoke to me again. She seemed so cool, but she was incredibly immature in how she handled, or rather didn't handle, letting me know that she was just waiting for her ex to return. The worst part was that she couldn't just talk to me at the end. Story 36. I'm not a guy, but I thought one of my dude friends in high school was into me. I wasn't instantly attracted to him, but he was a cool, funny guy. He would sit and lean against me with his head on my shoulder or lap sometimes. People always thought we'd make a cute couple. I'm not used to being touched, so I thought his touchy-feely stuff meant he liked me. One day I had a weird dream about him that made me realize I had a crush on him. So I thought, what the hell? I messaged him on MSN telling him I liked him. He said he figured I did. News to me since I just discovered it myself, but he didn't see me that way. Flash forward 4 years later. We're both out of high school, but I hadn't seen him for a long time. We still talked over Messenger and social media, though. One day out of the blue, he messaged me and basically asked if I wanted to exchange V-cards with him. Honestly, I was kind of intrigued, but ultimately I said no. He ended up losing his V-card to his ex-girlfriend. He proceeded to tell me about it in messages and wanted to know if I'd exchange pictures with him. I declined. Not long after, he discovered he was actually gay. So I'm actually pretty relieved that I never took him up on his offers. I'm glad he discovered himself, but I think it would make me feel bad if the guy I lost my V-card came out of the closet afterwards. We don't talk much now. It's been years. It's still confusing, though. Like, why was he all touchy with me, then claim he's not into me, but then want to sleep with me and ask for pictures? I guess it was more confusing for him since he was gay. Story 37. A girl from my writing class told me she loved my stories and poems and asked if I could help her improve. We met up a few times and she started getting better and she asked if I'd like to get coffee with her to make things even. After we were done, she asked if I'd like to go to her house to watch Netflix. She said her parents wouldn't be back until after midnight and she was scared to be alone but felt safe with me. While watching Love Actually, she laid on my lap and was talking about how much it was like one of those characters and how she wants to date a guy like that. After the movie was over, it was getting late, so I excused myself and she walked me out to the porch. I went in for the kiss, then she freaked out about how all guys who do that are dogs and she thought we were friends. Story 38. The girl I had been crushing on for years in high school and had been flirting with for some time comes up to me in the hall and says, "Hey Kay, would you like to go grab lunch together tomorrow?" I was over the moon, ecstatic, and the lunch with her went really well. I paid, we were laughing, having a great time, then a few days later, I was talking to her about our date. Well, what I thought was a date. And she told me that she did not. She then told me she only liked me as a friend and she was actually interested in one of my friends. She was sorry for the confusion. We stayed friends, but it was rough. I passed away a little inside that day. Maybe more than a little. It took me a while, much longer than I care to admit, to get over that. And since then, I pretty much always insisted when asking someone out on clarifying that I'm asking them out on a date. Story 39. I met a beautiful, interesting woman at a language exchange. We started meeting up just by ourselves, once a month or so. She was flirty and touchy-feely. We always had a good time. After a couple of meetups, she said she doesn't want to continue with the language, but we still wanted to meet up. One time, she suggests we meet her 2 female friends for a drink. I ended up talking with one of them a lot and noticed my friend giving jealous glances at us. It's time to pay. We all head over to the till. My friend has her arm around me and is leaning into me. We plan to go eat all together, but my friend says, let's go somewhere ourselves. I think it's a cert and tell her later I'd like to kiss her. She says no, we're just friends. And that's the last I saw of her. Story 40. This girl and I used to chill every evening, getting a drink, attending shows, etc. every day. She would often come to my place and wouldn't bring sleeping clothes and used to borrow my shirts to sleep in. She would change into the shirt right in front of me. We used to text a lot, every 2 to 3 hours before we slept off. Also, we used to make each other laugh out of our beds. On my birthday, she gave me a gift, i.e., a reused glass jar full of stickies, each sticky listing her favorite moment with me. We used to cuddle on the sofa while watching something on the TV or listening to music. I asked her out 2 days after I got the jar as a gift. She said she loves me as a friend, but doesn't like me enough to date me. I cut all contact with her immediately. She pings me from time to time if she needs anything. That is the limit of our engagement at this point. Story 41. I work with a 30-something Filipino girl at a large corporation. She had very long curly hair, a big smile, and was very friendly to me since the first day she was hired. She would seek me out regularly just to take a walk to the break room to get a snack. When we were alone, she touched my arm quite often, laugh at almost anything I said, and had something like a nervous habit where she kept raising one eyebrow as we were talking. Oh, and when we were alone, she'd take down her hair from her bun or ponytail every time, tossing and flipping it around the whole time. She put her hair up at all other times. To be clear, we were both married, and so I never even entertained the idea that something might happen. I told my wife, though. She thought I must be imagining things, so I never brought it up again. This went on for about 8 months until we hired a female friend of hers, and it was like it never existed. I'd see them walking to the break room together every day. Her hair was down, and she was acting to her friend exactly as she had been acting towards me. I told my wife, she laughed for a long time. Eventually, she told me that she thought it was funny because I thought she was flirting, but she really thought of me as her safe friend. She said, in her eyes, you might as well be gay. Story 42. There is a barista at my daily coffee shop who is a total dime and have had a major crush on her for the past month. Last convo, she seemed really flirty, getting close to me and touching my arm. I finally resolved myself to ask her out, having just returned from vacation. I go in and see that she's working, and I steel myself. She spots me and comes over and says, oh my god, you're back. How was your vacation? Before I can even give her the line that I had saved in my head for the past week, she says, we should get drinks sometime and you can tell me all about it. I'm thinking, holy crap, my crush asked me out. This has never happened to me in my life. So I get a number and we're chatting, and I mentioned something about getting drinks. She says, oh, wait, you're not hitting on me, are you? Normally, I'm very smooth, but the semi-accusatory nature of her question threw me for a loop, so all I could say was, why? She went on to say she had a boyfriend and she just wanted to hang out. I felt really guilty that I misread her and failed to salvage the conversation. In the end, I just awkwardly said goodbye and walked away. In case she sees this and knows who I am, barista, if you're reading this and know I'm talking about you, my bad. It happens all the time, but my lack of caffeine made me make it way more awkward. You're really cool, and I'm still down to just kick it sometime. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. Catch you in that video.